This is the Egyptian Museum, a tourist icon, repository of thousands of years of Egyptian culture. But right now it also symbolizes something a little bit grimmer. During the protests recently, scores of protesters were taken right here. They were handcuffed to this fence behind me. Some of them were beaten or subjected to electric shocks and humiliated in ways that raise the question, is the Egyptian revolution going off the rails to some degree? On March 9th, less than a month after the fall of President Hosni Mubarak, the Egyptian military stormed into Tahrir Square. Soldiers tore down tents and arrested pro-democracy activists. About 18 of them were women. Salwa Gouda is a passionate pro-democracy activist. A 20-year-old hairdresser, she told me that she was hit and subjected to verbal and physical abuse by military officers.
They started to call me many bad names. The Major General slapped me several times, and after this, the soldiers started to shock me with a cattle prod.
The following day, the worst came. That was forced virginity testing by a man in a public hallway.
The women were asked to take off all their clothes. They said if anybody was not a virgin, she would be taken to military court and accused of being a prostitute. I was shattered. My whole body was shaking. Our army humiliated us.
The larger problem goes far beyond the humiliation of one woman. Men were also tortured. This YouTube clip shows a man who says he was beaten and detained at the Egyptian Museum. So even after a people's revolution, the army still arrests and tortures with impunity.
As a human rights organization, virginity tests are completely unnecessary, inherently discriminatory, and in this context they're sexual assault. Right. A lot of Egyptians may find this kind of treatment legitimate because they think the army knows best, and they think we're in a state of insecurity and everyone's worried about the future going forward. But I think if you start now with, well, you can't touch the military, you can't criticize the military, then seriously, what was Tahrir all about?
But it's not just protesters in Tahrir.
We were being manhandled very harshly. I mean, I had the two people grabbing me from my arms and my wrists.
Rajia Omran told me that she was roughed up by soldiers at a polling station. She was detained for hours and strip-searched. And she's a human rights lawyer.
I'm sure there are many that we don't know of and we don't hear of. People who have been arrested by the army, have been tortured, have been detained, have been put on trial and given very harsh sentences without the attendance of lawyers. Is this the army that we thought that were going to protect us? This is not what I thought the army would do.
Overall, Egypt is freer than before. But there's no doubt that to some extent, even without Mubarak as president, Mubarakism continues. The military abuse is appalling, but it is encouraging that women like Salwa, Rajia, and Heba are fighting back. The outcome is still unclear.
The empowerment that people experience at Tahrir will not just disappear, regardless of what the military thinks. But if in the process we ignore things like accountability, rule of law, and human rights, then whatever we end up with will not be much better than Mubarak's police state.